7 PM, and I'll call the Londonderry Planning Board meeting to order for January 3rd, 2024. Another year, Happy New Year, everyone. And just want to go through the procedures here. I just want to make sure that everyone knows where the exits are. They're on the right-hand side of the audience, they're in the front of the room, and the back of the room. We have to evacuate for any reason. We ask you to proceed through the exit closest to you, go outdoors, move away from the building, and don't come back into. Our fire officials have instructed us to do so. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise. We'll pledge allegiance to the American flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Agenda tonight, we have administrative board work. That's where we get our business done. We have actually 3 sets of minutes to approve, and regional impact determinations, extensions, and discussions with staff. And we have 2 plans for a public hearing tonight. One is a rezoning request on Hillside Avenue, and the other is a public hearing that relates to a sewer issue with one of our conditionally approved plans, and it goes to satisfying the conditions of that plan. We'll get into the details of that when we get there. And then the board will have a discussion on its rules of procedure. I just want to note that we have actually 8 voting members here. Don't need to appoint any alternates, so we got Tony, I don't see Roger, I know Jason is not going to be able to make it tonight. So we have a quorum, we can proceed with the meeting. So we'll go to administrative board work for approval of minutes. We have, the first set is December 6th, 2023. And if there's no questions or anything, I'll take a
So
vote.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Al to adopt the minutes of December 6th. Do we have a second? Second by Ted. Any discussion on the minutes of the 6th?
It was second by Jake.
Jake, okay, you both sound the same there. I thought it was almost a duet, but let the record note that Jake did the second, so. Seeing no discussion on the minutes of December 6th, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions?
Abstain.
And the record shows Gianni abstains. Chair votes affirmative, and the motion of December 6, 2023 are approved. We have the non-public minutes of December 6, 2023.
So moved to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion on the non-public minutes of December 6, 2023? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? Chair votes affirmative, and motion carries. And December 13th, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Al, second by Jake. Any discussion on the minutes of December 13th, 2023? I gotta check my writing. Seeing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? And
Abstain. I abstain.
Al abstains. Al, I know Al was not present. And chair votes affirmative, and motion carries the approval of the minutes of December 13th, 2023. And we have no regional impact determinations. I think we have one extension request, don't we, Kelly?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have an extension request for the outdoor pride site plan, which is located map 17, lot 5 on Kitty Hawk. They're requesting an extension to June 2nd, 2024.
So how close are they actually to
They're
getting all
quite
the
close.
conditions?
We just had a meeting with the applicant yesterday, and they have a few miscellaneous items to complete.
Mm-hmm. It could be, it's achievable by then.
I believe so.
Oh, okay. If no questions from the board, I'll take a motion that,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the extension to June 2nd, 2024.
Second.
okay, motion by Al for the extension, second by Jake. And that's for, Pride,
Outdoor pride.
Outdoor Pride, okay. I was looking for another landscaping name. Outdoor Pride, to the 2nd of June, 2024. And Seeing no questions, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? And chair votes affirmative, and the Outdoor Pride has been granted an extension on their plan to June 2nd, 2024. Okay. Quick work there, Jake.
I try.
Any discussions with the staff? Have anything, John?
Nope, nothing this evening.
Okay, Kelly?
All set, Mr. Chair.
All set. Board have anything? We will proceed then. We have a public hearing for a rezoning request to rezone 105 Hillside Avenue, tax map 10, lot 92. Wyndham Realty LLC, William DeLuca is the owner and the applicant, from AR1 Agricultural Residential 1 to C2, which is Commercial 2. And this is a request for a rezoning, and I think there's been several plans on this parcel in the past, so
Quite a history.
it has, yes, it has a history. So gentlemen, just identify yourselves officially for our records, and we can proceed.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. Happy New Year to everyone. For the record, my name is Kevin Smith, and I am representing the owners of 105 Hillside Ave. With me this evening is Bill DeLuca, who's in the back, and Steve DeLuca. You may be familiar with the DeLucas. They also own and operate the New England Auto Auction just off of Exit 4. And they own this property as under the entity of Wyndham Realty LLC. And if it's okay, I'll give a brief introduction of why they're seeking the rezoning change, show some pretty pictures, and then happy to take any questions from the board afterwards. So, as I mentioned, Wyndham Realty LLC, they're the owner of the property located at 105 Hillside Ave. And they're seeking a rezoning of the parcel from its current designation as AR1 residential to C2 commercial. The property's unique positioning presents what we feel is a compelling case for this rezoning request. Currently, half the property shares its western boundary with adjacent C2 commercially zoned properties, while roughly the other half, or just slightly under it, abuts residential properties to the east and the north. A historical review of the property's land use reveals that in 2007, it did receive conditional approval from the planning board for an age-restricted residential development consisting of 50 homes. And then more recently, in 2017, the zoning board of adjustment here granted a variance to permit 96 units of workforce housing on the site. However, the current owner now seeks the rezoning to C2 to facilitate the development of an enclosed indoor vehicle and boat storage facility. And this proposed use is notably far less intensive than the previously considered residential developments. And it promises to generate significantly less neighborhood traffic and will result in fewer public safety calls for service. In the owner's commitment to being inclusive and engaging with the community, the property owner did proactively engage some of the direct residential abutters to the property earlier this fall, or last fall. The discussions indicated that there was general favorability among the abutting residents towards this zoning change because of the less intense use. And it's worth noting that the prospect of a high-density residential development is not appealing to the residents in this area, and the proposed change is in line with more of the neighborhood's interests. Moreover, the property owner has sought input from the town of Derry, and there have been no objections or concerns raised by the town regarding the proposed zone change, because this does, as you see, sit right on the Derry line. So in light of the aforementioned considerations and a harmonious fit with the proposed rezoning of the surrounding area, we do respectfully request the planning board's thoughtful and favorable consideration of the zoning change in recommending for it to the town council. And your support in this would contribute to the sustainable development and well-being of the local community. Kelly, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the 105 Hillside PDF. you can go through some of these here. So there's obviously the property in question. There it is again. You see it's C2 to the west, residential 1 to the east, and there you can see the line, the demarcation line between the town of Derry and Londonderry.
I'm curious why you didn't show the Londonderry residential properties on just the ones that show dairy homes.
Well, you know what, in the overlay there you can see it. Oh. It's coming. Coming attractions. So there they are.
There it is.
And you can, again, see where the
Yeah.
commercial buildings are to the west.
It's not as easy to
North
see,
and
but I
south.
get it.
Yeah.
With the zoning layer on, the white is all residential.
Oh, is that just zoning?
This is the zoning overlay, so all the white is
Okay,
residential.
and then dairy is,
And dairy is the gray area.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. You can go to the next one. These are just different views from the different directions. There's the south-looking view. There it is from the north, east, and the next one is looking west from the property. And Kelly, if you wouldn't mind also bringing up the workforce housing that was conceptually approved after so this was the conceptual plan after it had received the ZBA's approval for 96 units on this property. And it did receive that variance. If you go back and read the minutes, there was considerable opposition from the abutters for that, but it was a unanimous decision by the zoning board to approve that at the time. Just a couple of other quick notes. As far as the DeLuca's plans, which is for the indoor vehicle and boat storage facility, we don't have a site plan for that yet. It was my recommendation and staff's as well that we not put the cart before the horse to see if we can get the rezoning first. But also because if we do get the rezoning, would probably take the same path that we did with this, which is engage the abutters first to talk about what that looks like, landscaping buffers, and make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing as possible for the neighborhood. So I just bring that up in case there's any questions tonight about what color is it going to be, what's the roof line going to look like, and that sort of thing. There are no site plans yet for that.
That comes later.
Exactly. Comes afterwards. As I mentioned, we did have a meeting with the abutters. Candidly, in an ideal world, I think they would rather see this piece of land not be developed at all. But that's just not going to happen. It is going to be developed one way or the other. We did let them know that if the zoning change does not go forward, it is the intent of the DeLucas to develop it as residential. One, because they can do so by right. And it's at that point the highest and best use. That being said, I think the consensus is that this is a better use for that property, given the size of the land, the landscaping buffers that can be done around it, and the general consensus among the abutters with traffic and everything else. Last thing I would mention is that since the DeLucas have owned the property, they did, prior to the pandemic, seek a variance with the ZBA at the time to use it for essentially overflow parking from the auto auction. And that variance was denied. And the abutters did express concern at that time about the number of cars that would be coming in and out of there. And so again, they have abandoned that plan, are looking to do this indoor storage, which again will be about as low intensive as you can have for a commercial use of the property. Stephen, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add at this point.
I think you hit on everything.
So what came a while back, didn't we have a conceptual for this a while back? That was just parking area,
Yeah, it was just parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 1,041 parking spots.
Yeah.
That was
There
pre-COVID.
was the multifamily, then
Yeah.
before that, Elmer Pease on the property. And he was gonna put in the 55 over, the age housing. I know there are traffic problems with both of those plans. It was, very-
Yeah, the elderly housing, it did receive, as I mentioned, it received conditional approval, but the owners at the time never followed up with the conditions, and so essentially the application just lapsed.
Okay, so what I'll do is go to staff input will go to the board. Board will have its questions and input, and then to the public for their input. Kelly, John, you have anything to? No, nothing. Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant did a nice job outlining the history, and I'll just state that that is an accurate reflection of the previous proposals for the property. But just to reiterate, we're talking about a 16.5 acre vacant parcel that's zoned AR1, which is residential, and where the applicant's looking to rezone it to commercial 2. The surrounding zoning is both commercial 2 and AR1, so this isn't anything like spot zoning. It's consistent with the surrounding zoning and consistent with other uses of the abutting properties. Just to orient you further, the other uses I'm referring to are Deja Vu. There's a countertop business in that area. It's very close to Bodie Equipment on Londonderry Road. Just to kind of give you an idea of similar uses in the area. In addition to that, it is consistent with our master plan. The master plan identifies this area as the G5 retrofit growth sector, which talks about areas that are already developed in a suburban development pattern and have potential to be modified or completed as activity centers. So this evening, we're looking for a recommendation from the planning board to the town council on whether or not the council should approve or deny their rezoning request.
Okay, I'll go through the board. I'll start with Ann. Oh, he wants to, okay, you're busy there. Gianni?
Well, we're just talking about the zoning of it, not access or the future development at this point, and it is consistent with the C2 that's in front of it. And it's probably a much less intense use than what could go there from what you're conceptualizing. So I don't really have any questions. I thought you did a good job presenting it.
Ted?
I have no issues. I think it'll be good use for that land, and it should be a good continuation of that C2 buffer for the rest of the residential area.
I think it certainly fits what's around it, in terms of what's on Londonderry Road. Don't really have any comment.
Yeah, I have to agree with my compatriots here. The one question I have is on the 16.5 acres, are you just going to have one big storage facility, that's all that's gonna be there, or?
The initial plan would be to, because of the terrain, would be to do 2 buildings, and, get approval for both, build the first one, fill it up, and then build the second one and fill it up, is our initial thought, instead of building one giant building and finding out we can only fill half of it.
Yeah, I can see those storage facilities have much less traffic impact than any other uses, so, thank you for that.
Lynn?
So I should probably know this, but why not go for a variance first and then come for a zoning change if the variance is granted through the ZBA?
We just felt it was more consistent with the zoning that's around this, that it made more sense, and I think would provide greater certainty for the abutters as well.
Okay, and Kelly, do we know what the setback requirements are for a C2 for a building such as this?
So, thank you, and I meant to add that if this is rezoned to C2, in addition to the standard setback, there's an additional 50-foot buffer that would be required along the property lines that are shared with the residentially zoned properties.
The 75-foot setback?
Correct.
And do we know what the maximum building height would be for a C2?
I believe it's, I don't know if I know off the top of my head, but I think it's
50 feet?
I think it's 50.
50 feet.
Yeah, so, not to be contrary, but having a warehouse near our house that is very, not the nicest looking building. And that would be my concern with doing this, putting a building. We don't really know what the building's gonna look like at this point in time.
Right.
And also, making a zoning change now, when we don't have a plan in front of us, the plans can change and come back with something else that's not necessarily to our liking, but the zoning allows it, so. I'm gonna be a contrary vote, and so I think we should go through the variance process first, and then come to us.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's definitely consistent with what's around there. I do appreciate the proactiveness about reaching out and discussing with the abutters. I'd be interested to see if there was any abutters or anyone from the public here this evening that will be speaking on this, but I do appreciate you being proactive. And
Did you get any written support from the neighborhood that you could provide?
No, there were nothing in writing in, but there are, I know there's abutters that are here this evening, and I'm sure they'll speak. speak
Because
on
you
it.
mentioned it in what you wrote out
Right.
for us. Thank you.
other than that, Mr. Chair, I'm all set.
Okay, Tony?
So, I'm gonna reserve most of my comments till after the public
Yeah.
comments, but I do wanna say, to Lynn's comment, this land is very steep, there's about 75 feet. So even a 50-foot building is gonna not
Not that
be
much.
road height, depending on where they site
Like a
it.
giant fishbowl, isn't it?
But at any rate, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, it's not a flat piece of land with the residential properties, it's.
It would be great if you could pull up the topography on this piece of property so you can show how steep some of the areas are and also the large amount of wetland on this property. Most of it abutting the C2 businesses to the west of it is abutting wetlands there, except near the entrance to the property on, Hillside Ave. There's, I'd say, I don't know how many, hundreds of feet or yards of good soils there, but it's kind of a strange property. It's high on Hillside Drive,
Right.
high on, even, it seems higher on Holmes Street, and then on the backside, it drops down to, where they have wetlands, and the wetlands are almost up to the street. So, and on the west side, it abuts C2. So it's a strange property. You have to take a look at it, and you have to deal appropriately with the good areas, just like they did when they did the housing development.
Yeah.
That's why it's in that kind of configuration.
Yeah, Kelly, if you go back to the PDF, for people to see where the wetlands are, where Ann's talking about, so you can clearly see them there, that they are closer on the commercial side.
I hope the owner doesn't mind. I walked the property the other day to see it.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may too, just to address one other thing that Lynn had brought up regarding the variance. If you look at, as you know, the ZBA, they're quasi judicial, so they're less looking at planning and more looking at, does it meet the points of law? They found that the parking lot was not consistent with fitting in with the area. But again, they unanimously approved the 96 units of workforce housing because they found that was consistent. So looking at that reasoning, it's another reason we came to the planning board.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But I guess my thought was, if the zoning board denied a variance, you still have the option to come and get
Sure.
a zoning change.
Yeah.
That was my thought process.
Are you done, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still on, Ann.
I'm still rolling here.
Okay.
Let's see, the main entrance is gonna be where, on Hillside Ave?
Correct.
Okay, will there be an exit on to Beacon Street or anything?
That's really.
I believe, it's,
Because it's flat area down there at the curve.
I think the,
But is that something you're thinking about, using it, just like the previous development?
no, so just to, when we came with the parking lot plan originally, we
Right.
did speak to the fire department. They wanted a gated
Okay,
access for fire purposes only, would not be open for public access, was what was their feedback at the time. And we don't want access on Beacon, we want access on Hillside. There's a nice big buffer there of the hill, so that you can't, we don't even want people to see or know that there's a building down there. We wanna, tuck it down
right.
behind.
Now, that street is only about 18 feet wide, a pavement, though. That has to be redone for trucks and trailers bringing in cars and boats. I think that should be a priority, because it is really narrow there. Right at the beginning of the property from Hillside, where that big tree is, measured it out there, and it's only 18 feet wide, and that's way below standards for a town road.
probably second guessing what they're going to do is.
Well, I'm not, I'm just saying what's there.
It's formative stages, so they'll have to meet all this stuff when it comes to the site plan.
Right.
But,
Right.
I know with the two previous residential plans, multifamily, there was a lot of difficulty getting the number of units in that they
Yeah.
wanted. They couldn't get them all in. But also, a traffic pattern for with parking. So I know I went through several iterations with the planning board, so it was not an easy piece of property.
Yeah, okay, I can't ask that, can I? You own the other property that's on, facing on Hillside? Is that gonna stay if you?
That's
in
gonna
your
stay
vision?
residential.
It's going, you're gonna leave the house?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I know the house that was on there was taken down a couple of years ago.
Correct, on the main property.
Yes, okay. Let's see if there's anything else I have. I think I'll save anything else for later, in case, reserving the time.
Okay, are there any abutters to the plan, or anyone in the public have any questions, comments, and concerns in regarding this proposed, rezoning? And I'd ask you to come to the microphone here, there's one you can sit at also, and I need your name and address, please. So, first come, first served.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name's Bob Holden. I live at 6 Holmes Street. I'm the last house on the dead end. One of the things I want to bring up, I know it does abut the C2 that everyone sees, but if you're looking at that picture right there, all the property that abuts is all wetlands. So it's not like you're going to be putting anything over on that end, so it is going to be on the residential side. Last year, we did meet with them. You did have conceptual plans that showed a single building up, and it was towards the residential aspect, but it was one building. It wasn't two buildings. So I think that's where, my concern is where we were initially led to believe that there's only going to be one building there, but now there's talks of two. If we were to give our support for this, I'm just worried that there's going to be the old bait and switch. You're telling us, all right, it's initially going to be one building, now we're thinking about two. Where do we draw the line there? And if we give our approval for that with no current plans or anything like that, who's going to say we're not going to have a full industrial building like what's on Londonderry Road? Do we want that in our backyard? No, we know something's going to be built. But obviously, we want to be mindful of what's there because it does abut residential property and it's not right on top of the commercial. Nothing that's going to be built on that end to give us that small buffer area. So that's one of my concerns is, don't tell us one thing and then plan on doing another. So for that, I don't support this. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And lady here.
I don't live, I'm not an actual abutter, but I live directly around the corner on Dickey Street. And we have been having massive
Could you repeat
problems.
that, what street?
I live directly around the corner on Dickey Street. I've
Oh,
been
Dickey,
seeing
okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
The old house was.
Do you mind just saying your name and address for the record? Thank you, I appreciate it.
Susan Bradley,
Oh, sorry about
8
that.
Dickey Street.
Thank
Which
you.
is the second house and I can look out my front and see Old Chase's farm. My problem is the neighborhood has become so noisy, I've not had a night's sleep in 7 years. We have trucks backing up with backup beepers at 3:30 in the morning. And I know what you think you want to do, but it doesn't work out, and you might want to change. And then the newer businesses are not concerned about nighttime noise over there, and even though it is zoned to not be working at night. And the other thing is traffic. 3 times this year, I could not get to my house because the restaurant at the end of the street doesn't have enough parking. Both sides had parked cars, and there was one narrow lane down Dickey Street, and it backed up onto Hillside. And that same night, 3 tractor-trailer trucks were trying to get into the Hillside businesses, and they're blocking the road from that direction. Dickey Street is blocked. So adding more traffic, I'm really concerned about how much traffic you're gonna bring and what angle you're gonna come at into that. You know that area of Hillside is so narrow, you can barely fit 2 cars. What is the reason that they can't go out on the commercial area on Londonderry Road?
I don't know access. I don't
You
think,
don't own any
we don't own
property
any
out
property.
I don't have access out there.
And you
The
can't-
wetland
Yeah,
areas.
no, the corner is like, you can kind of see
Yeah,
the corner of the property. We'd love to.
I mean, it makes things so much easier, yeah. But that's our concern in the neighborhood. We're old people, we work, we don't want to be kept up at night, and we want to be able to get to our house. You know, you pay taxes on the house, you want to be able to drive down the street, you know? So that's the biggest concern, not much how it looks, because everything's getting developed. Things don't look like they did in '63, and that's okay. But we just want to live, you know? We want to get to our house, we want to sleep at night. That's our biggest concern, me and my nearest neighbors.
Ken, you brought up a good point. Can you guys answer a question? Is this going to be open 24 hours, this proposed storage, or are you going to have?
It's designed for people with boats who are gonna be storing them there, drop them off in the fall, pick them up in the spring. People with old cars, classic cars, exotic cars, drop them off in the fall, pick them up in the spring. We're really trying, to go more towards as least, the least amount of traffic as possible. It's not like, on Londonderry Road, there's a storage, unit where you can go 24/7, you have a key to the gate, you can go and access your units. This is, you pack the building and, cars are parked in front of other cars and it's heated, climate storage, so that, people don't have to park their car.
People pick them up by appointment, or?
We don't have, we don't have a set business plan.
Okay.
Yeah. We kind of, when we initially came for the auction for the parking and got, we spent a bunch of money, spent a lot of time and got shut down. So, we kind of wanted to come and see before we go any further, and do conceptuals for the planning board and stuff like that, get the approval for
Well,
the.
yeah, and the key thing is that you're not going to have people going in and out at midnight.
No,
No.
no.
Site plan, we can set the hours.
I was gonna say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to.
A lot of this stuff would be,
Well.
a lot of this stuff would be stuff that you guys work out in the planning.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you gonna have like loading docks, or how are you gonna operate this? How does that work? I haven't experienced one of these, so what's the typical? I mean, I wonder how many of these big bay doors they have open and closing all the time, or is,
There would
how is
probably
that?
be one, I don't know, I mean, most of the ones I've seen that we've kind of based the idea off of have one door in the middle, kind of like a barn, and all the cars and boats get parked on the side.
Okay, okay.
And we really wouldn't even see it from the street, I don't believe anyways.
Okay, it's just, it's a warehouse housing.
Yeah, it needs to have,
Boats.
it needs to have clear span height of, 13.6 is the highest vehicle that can legally drive, like an RV. Somebody had an RV there, 13.6 would be like the clearest
So it
indoor.
would be one story?
Yeah, one story. I don't know what they would need for roof height to get 13.6, but,
Okay, I'd like to hear from the public and,
Okay, sorry.
sorry.
okay, next. Yeah, just need your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Ross. I live at 2 Home Street with my husband Bob. Unfortunately, he can't be here tonight for health reasons, but my property runs the length of the property of 105. My whole backyard abuts this property. My house sits up on a hill, so I'm looking down at this area. There is a small buffer of trees, but 7 months out of the year, when the leaves are off the trees, you have the full view of this property. My main concern is hillside, like we were talking about. It's very, very narrow. There are a lot of times during the time I'm retired, so I'm home during the day. I travel hillside quite often. There are semi-trailers that back into, I think it's 119 Hillside. They block the road very often. A lot of times they're parked on the side of the road, so you have to go around them. The property at the BM Studio, 108, all of a sudden they're starting to sell granite slabs out of the parking lot. This 105 is like the beginning of the old residential neighborhoods. There's small streets, there's older homes. This has always been like a buffer between the commercial end and the residences. From our meeting in July or August, I can't remember exactly when we met with Mr. Smith and Mr. DeLuca, but they said they weren't interested in doing any residential building at that time. That's what they told us. But I'm just asking you not to approve this. I think if it's approved, we're gonna have trailers. Yes, it's only a couple of times during the year, it's in the fall, or summer, but we're still gonna have traffic with trailers bringing boats, trailers bringing cars, RVs, all that sort of stuff in that narrow part of the road. And on a good day, there's barely enough room for 2 cars to get by. I have been pushed off or gone off to the side of the road in fear of getting sideswiped many a time. So please, I'm asking you not to approve this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next. And, your names and address, please.
Yeah. Yvonne Dennis Marvell.
53 Hillside Ave.
53 Hillside.
Yeah, we're on the corner, 53 Hillside Ave.
Yes, and what are the names?
Dennis and Eva Marvell.
Okay.
Okay, we
Is
just
this
want
the
to
corner of
say,
Hillside and Holmes?
yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're really up high, and that's our concern too, is that I'm already seeing the 2 buildings from Woodmont right out my window, the skyscrapers that they're building over there. So my thing is, I'm just worried about what we gotta look at too, out there out the back window. I'm already seeing that stuff at Woodmont, like she said, 7 months of the year. And now that those are up, those 2 big buildings, that's what we're probably gonna be looking at, the same thing, depending on how high this building goes. And I'm also worried about the residential moving up the street. I mean, Mr. DeLuca does own a house next to me, a small home. I don't know if that's gonna stay that way. That's residential right now, a little home, 103. So like I said, we feel like they're creeping up too. It's already crowded down there. I'd rather not see it get approved. I just don't wanna look at that stuff either. I mean, it's creeping up. If it's gotta stay residential, then let it stay residential. I think that way, at least it's staying that way.
Yeah, it just seems amazing that it's taken so long to get this going and it's still struggling. So it seems like it's a challenging piece of property. And, you know, just don't know whether it's gonna work out or not. And we'll see what happens, I guess, based on you guys vote and any success with whatever plans they come forward with, but
And it is in our backyard, we're looking at it, so.
Yeah.
and Like my two neighbors, they're up on us, and that's what we're gonna see.
so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Hey, Ray, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Ray Bresson, 3 Gary Drive, and I think it's very important that you do listen to the abutters. And this piece of property, I'm somewhat familiar with it. It actually used to be a vineyard back in the day. It's kind of a nice piece of property, but not all that ideal for a piece of commercial property. For one thing, there's only one access on Hillside, which, as we've heard, is pretty limited access. I understand they're only going to use it off and on, different times of the year. But even access to the property for fire or whatever, be nice, a piece of property like that had 2 accesses, but that's really not possible with the layout of the land. Of course, my personal concern, I'm not an abutter, but I'm just speaking as a citizen of Londonderry. My concern would be all the wetland that abuts that property. It is a high piece of property on Hillside, which goes off rather steeply to the wetland. If that's going to be have buildings on it and it's going to have pavement on it, all that runoff is going to go into the wetland, which is already impacted. Some of that wetland is contaminated right now, if you happen to take a site walk out there. So it's kind of a challenging piece of property, and to give it a zoning change, that's without any specific plan as to what is going to go there, which even though if they have a conceptual idea now, they could change quite easily down the road. So I think it's important you listen to the abutters in particular and their concerns. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else? Kevin?
If I could, Mr. Chair, just address just some of the comments. With regard to comments that were made about, roadway width improvements, landscaping buffers, the hours, obviously those are all things that can be and would be addressed through the site plan approval process. And again, it would be the intent of the DeLucas to work with the abutters on those items prior to even probably submitting a site plan for the property. Some of the other concerns we've heard as far as what sound almost like commercial property violations. Putting on my old hat for a second, I would say if there's violations currently happening in those areas, that they probably should be addressed through the zoning enforcement, whether that's parking on the street, improper loading, hours of operation, and that sort of thing. Those things can certainly all be addressed. And lastly, just 2 things with regard to the comment about the one building conceptual. The DeLucas did have, it was a very rough copy of one building, a square box placed on there. I don't believe it's their intent to increase the size of the footprint from what was shown on that, but rather to cut it in half. And as Stephen mentioned, have both approved, but if they can only fill one, not build the other one, and to see how that goes. But it would not be to increase the size of the footprint on what was shown at the meeting we had with the abutters. And as far as the future building of residential, Kathy is correct. It is not their desire to want to build residential. again, on this property. But if that is the only option that's left on the table, then that is their intent. That's what they will do with it, because they can do that by right. However, it's their desire in wanting to put a much less intensive use on that property.
Okay, I was just looking at the plan for the 55 and older there, and it appears that most of the housing units are in the central part of the property. There's wetlands that are on the west side, and the steep slopes that are on the east side. The best building area was right in the middle. They do have some units, and I know these were, at the time, rather difficult situation. Whether they could actually build them or not is another question, but that's what the site plan shows from
Right.
The 55 and older housing. I know with the Elma Pieces, that was difficult too, and also one of the things we did then was try to save some of the vineyards, which at least the developer was favorable toward that anyway, so. As far as what's happened to all the grapes, I have no idea.
I'm guessing they're not there. The vines may still be there.
So, board.
Yeah, I just got
Art,
something to say.
Yeah.
All right.
Ian.
Well, you spoke first, so.
Yes, yeah, I'll get you.
Oh, I had a couple of questions.
Go ahead, ask your questions.
Okay. You also have another, could be a possible point of entry at number 55 Hillside Drive. That's part of your property, but it's like in Derry. It comes out through the between 103 and 53 Hillside. There's that, it goes actually, I went onto the Derry website, a strip
Yes.
to Hillside Drive right
Oh,
there.
40
That's
feet.
not going to be touched, correct?
Correct. Only, that would be access for water.
Oh, you mean underground?
Yes, for.
Okay, okay, because it looked like it could be an access point. I didn't know if it was going to be. Okay, now also, are you going to store any cars for your, or boats for your auto auction in the, on
No,
that
we don't
property?
we don't have any need for this property for the auto auction.
Okay, so it's a totally separate.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't sure.
No, this land is completely separate than the auto auction.
Okay.
Whether we do warehouse or housing.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
these questions should be more pertaining to the zoning, not to the use of the property. And we don't even have a plan in front of us to really have these questions.
I know, we'll just,
Humor me.
Just some basic stuff, but,
Well, I hate to rezone it without having something more concrete, a use of it, because we could rezone it and then it could be thrown out the window,
We're
so.
talking about a rezoning, we're not talking about a conceptual plan.
Right.
We
I
have
know.
plenty of steps that.
it could be the uses that are under, all the uses under C2.
I hope
Yeah.
that when they come back for a conceptual, they're hearing this feedback, and there's going to be buffers, there's going to be a plan for this road. It's going to address all of the concerns we have today, because I can probably guarantee you that it's not gonna go further than that. Right now, we're just talking about rezoning from a
Strictly
AR
the,
to C1.
Strictly the use,
Thank
from a
you.
planning perspective, it's the use of the property that we're looking at tonight. One thing I did want to mention with that 55 and older, there was entrances on Hillside and one also up on Beacon. So there were two for that.
So
Right,
just-
that's why I brought it
I
up.
think this would be a good time to talk about process, so that the people watching,
Yes.
you will understand,
Read my mind.
and so that the people that are here in the audience to understand what's going on here. So we have before us as a planning board right now, from the owner of the land, who is also the applicant, to rezone a piece of land. Our job here is to come to some kind of determination of a board, either yay or nay, to rezone this. But we're not the ones that make the decision on the rezoning. Our job is to make a recommendation to the town council. That's all we're doing here tonight, is to say the planning board agrees this could be a good parcel to rezone, or the planning board disagrees and says it's not a good parcel to rezone. It then goes to the town council, who will also have a public hearing, sometimes two, before they make a final decision. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that this gets approved to rezone, to go to the town council. Town council says, yes, we want to rezone it. Now all we have is a piece of land that's zoned differently. Now the owner has a decision to make on when and if he or she is going to come back to have a full set of plans to present to the planning board for use, where this board will then look at the regulations of the town with the town planner, assistant town manager, town engineer, fire department, director of public works, and everybody else that gets involved in a full site plan to answer all of the questions, problems, concerns, or whatever. So that's a thumbnail concept of where we are
One
now.
important point to your,
Yeah.
what you just outlined, at each step of those, at each one of those processes, abutters receive a notification.
And there are public hearings every step of the way.
Even for a design review application, the abutters receive a notice saying that we received an application for a site plan, and they're welcome to come into the planning department and ask these same questions or view the file, what have you. It's public information, but at each one of those steps, an abutter notice is sent.
Thank you. So there's
Okay.
plenty of notice, plenty of chance for public input at every single one of the steps. We are at the very beginning right now. Chief Al?
Oh, no, go ahead and finish if you want, but.
No, I'm good.
All right, okay, this is the way I see things right now. Big thing is traffic. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, are 96 townhouses gonna create more trips per day than a building where somebody comes and puts their Jaguar in there and doesn't show up for another 6 months? In my mind, yeah, it's worth it. So if the board is ready, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
But I want to say also, if they get it rezoned, they could change their mind again.
Dan, let's follow procedure here.
Right, but he's going to make a motion.
I'm gonna make a
You can
motion.
discuss the motion after I make it.
There'll be a
It's
second
seconded.
to the motion. If there's no second, it dies. So if there's a second, then we have discussion. And then we vote after the discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the town council approval of the rezoning request by Wyndham Realty LLC, William DeLuca, owner and applicant, to rezone 105 Hillside Ave, map 10, lot 92, from AR1 agricultural residential to commercial 2 C2.
Motion by Al. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. Discussion by the board. I'll start with Ian.
Oh, I can speak?
You speak now.
Okay, yeah, my concern was that if we rezone it, C2, there might be questions and then another use on the property.
Yes.
We can't decide for them what it eventually comes to be. We can take a look at the plans, whatever they are. So it's not guaranteed it's gonna be a big warehouse. That's why I like what Lynn Wiles said.
And you're correct in saying that, Ann, and I guess the only thing, if I may, Mr. Chair, I guess the only thing I would say to that is, the DeLucas have been doing business in town for some time and are going to probably continue to be doing so. I hope to be doing more business in this town as well. And I think if we were to come back to all of you with a completely different plan than what we outlined tonight, that wouldn't bode well for either one of us.
I just wish you came with somewhat of a plan, but I totally understand where you're coming from too.
At that point yet.
So,
But, I mean, the planning board perspective is really planning. It's planning how the consistency with the master plan, the consistency with the neighborhood, things like that. The town council has wider discretion Because once we make a recommendation to the town council has two readings on it. One, first reading is the introduction. The second reading is a public hearing. And that's when the planning board has the authority to say yes or no on it. Planning board only makes a recommendation. The town council is the governing body. We are not. Tony?
I'd like to weigh in that, this change has been shown to be consistent with our current master plan that we're working with. Someone said that there was testimony that there's industrial on Londonderry Road. Is that true? I thought it was all commercial.
It's commercial too.
Yeah.
So it's not industrial. There's no industrial on Londonderry Road. It's
Zoning is
commercial.
commercial.
Thank you. It's already been mentioned, a lot of comment about traffic and things not being done correctly. That's enforcement. That can all be dealt with. I don't see that as a problem. I will say that, one person's opinion, I think that if this building gets built, as discussed by the applicant owner, there is a need for this type of building, especially for all the people that are living in condos that have 40-foot RVs or a boat or whatever that they're not allowed to store on their property because there's so many rules in a condo development. So I think it is a good use for the town. All the other things are site plan specific. I will also say if I lived on Home Street, I would want what's being proposed today as opposed to 96 townhomes with 96 hibachis on the back deck and cars and calamity and kids and loud music and whatever. That's one person's opinion. Remember too that this will incur a 75-foot setback on quite a bit of the property. I will suggest to the applicant that if this board tonight recommends yes and it goes to the town council, my recommendation to you, based on previous things that have happened over the past 6 to 10 months, would be that you come in with a pretty hard and fast plan for the town council of what it is you're gonna do and how you're gonna do it. Because based on what I've seen, again, one person's opinion, based on my observations, that's what they've been asking for. So if this board approves this tonight to go to the town council, my suggestion, come in with a real solid, hard plan on exactly what it is you're gonna do it, how you're gonna do it, where the roads are gonna be, how many parking spaces you're gonna have, do it upright, so that they have a chance to make an informed decision. That would be my suggestion. We don't know how this vote's gonna go right now, I'm just saying. With that, I yield to my good friend here.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, no, I think just it's a challenging piece. Piece of land, we've established that tonight and the history of it. So if you find that there's success with that, there's a lot of process that's been discussed and kind of reviewed. You're gonna go through that process, the community's gonna go through that process. So, from a zoning standpoint and a suggestion to the town council, I think, we're definitely appropriate to kind of move forward with that, knowing that we have a really good, strong, solid process, and we have a good, good town staff and good boards that, will ensure that all residents and all abutters and all community members are best served by whatever property that we put in there. But so that's just, those are the comments I have.
So I had a question on setback and buffer sizes earlier, and just went to the zoning regs, and it's 50 feet.
And it's actually 30
Buffer.
feet for the side and rear.
Yep.
Setback and then a 50-foot buffer.
So I just wanted to clarify the
Yeah.
buffers
Thank you.
and the numbers.
Thank you.
I'm all set.
Okay. Yeah. I'm all set. Jake?
I'm at a little bit of a crossroads here. You know, there's been a ton of talk about site plan, and this is about zoning, which is getting two very different things mixed together. But that we've done that, I can tell you in my backyard is a storage facility as well as a, something probably around a 96, maybe a little bit more unit housing, and I would take 10 storage facilities over the one group of housing that's in my backyard. Again, I'm just saying that because we've gone down the road of let's talk site plans. What concerns me is that we would be approving to rezone it. So while I do believe that the DeLucas have done, you know, they own a business in town, I do believe that they will put something here. There is still the ability to put something else there with the zoning change. That's my concern. That being said, I believe that the DeLucas are not going to try and pull the wool over our faces here, and I'm sure they'll be presenting what they're talking about. And to Mr. D's point, there is a process, there's a very big process to go on after what is here tonight, whether this gets recommended or not. Keep in mind, this goes to the town council. The town council has the final say. And if the town council does approve it, there is a massive process that they need to go through to make sure that the issues that the residents are raising are appropriately addressed. So this is just the beginning of a very long process for this. But I'm not sure how I'm gonna vote yet. I'll tell you in about 20 seconds.
See what the rest of us are doing.
Yeah.
I have no comments right now.
Yeah. Johnny, anything else?
Yeah, I don't, I've heard everybody's comments, and I don't have anything to add of value, so.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
We have a second by Jeff.
Yeah. Al made the motion, Jeff did the second. So,
Is Ted gonna vote, or is he gonna save his vote?
I will save my vote for the town council and any comments at that time.
yeah,
Then
so
you
we
only have
know,
7.
so we know Ted's gonna abstain, so we got
Yeah,
7. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Abstain.
opposed,
Opposed?
Ted's abstained,
Opposed.
Jake's
Opposed.
opposed,
I'm opposed.
and three opposed, and, we got,
4 and 1 abstention.
yeah. So, the no's, I need a reason why. This is a new statute that we have to follow, so. I'll start with Ann. Your opposition to this?
Because we don't have a definite plan in place, some exact,
Killing me with this plan thing, Ann. We don't need a
I know.
plan to decide zoning.
I know.
No, this is.
But also, I had concern about the neighborhood also.
I don't think we
They-
need to do this. I don't think we need
I
to do
think
it.
you've given a reason, Ann, so we know what it is, and I think it'll go in the minutes. This is required by by statute now.
Not for a recommendation.
Yeah, this is not, we are not,
Oh,
this is a recommendation, Mr. Chair, to the town council. This
Okay.
is not a planning board.
oh,
decision.
yeah, I got caught up in that.
Can I just clarify those, so we have 4 yeas,
So
an
4
abstention, and
yeas,
3
three
nays?
nays,
Yes.
and 1 abstention. Motion carries. So, the planning board would make a recommendation to change the zoning to C2. This will go to the town council. Town council will have a, 1 reading, and then they'll have another reading and a public hearing on it, and you will get notices. So. start
Thank you very much.
the Second step of the process.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Next we have is a public hearing for a site plan, or site work relating to proposed gravity sewer main construction for the Page Road improvements off-site, or off-site improvements. 14 Page Road, tax map 17, lot 45, and 11 Sanborn Road, tax map 15, lot 164, the Evans Family Limited Partnership, CJE Trust Omni Trust, the owner and the applicant. And this has a conditionally approved site plan. One of the conditions relates to the sewer. The sewer has to have some completion done to meet all the requirements for that condition.
Stop.
I'll let John take over.
Mr. Chair, I just realized I'm a sort of a distant abutter, so I'm a.
Oh, okay, let the record show that Gianni Verani has stepped down from this plan.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, just a little background. This project was conditionally approved by the planning board back on July 12th, 2023. The applicant is currently addressing the conditions of the approval per the July 23 notice of decision. If you recall, what's happening, again, this lot here, this is 13-page, as portion of the development of 13-page road requires the construction of sanitary sewer from Sanborn Road through the Evans lot, through the existing portion of the area that's being presently, there's some site preparation work that's happening through there, goes, crosses Page Road, and it's certain, and that sewer will service 13-Page Road. Follow me? Okay, so that's what's basically happening. So again, the sewer construction is gonna commence on Sanborn Road and run in a northerly direction to Page Road, again through 11 Sanborn Road and 14 Page Road parcels. This will provide, again, the sanitary sewer to 13 Page Road. That is the site of a proposed 75,000 square foot warehouse by Rhino Capital. Currently, the permitted site activities on 14 Page Road is what you see, that open area. Yeah, so that's what Mark is doing presently, doing some site preparation in that area. That area is phase one of a two-phase project of removing materials and getting that site prepped for future development. That area there encompasses approximately 16 acres. The second phase is the area south of that that's still vegetated. That second phase is another 16 acres out there. So the applicant is requested to proceed with the proposed gravity sewer main construction prior to receipt of all permits for the off-site improvements in accordance with the conditionally approved site plan. The sewer construction entails significant cuts in stormwater improvements, both of which are conducive to perform during the winter time. So what ends up happening is, for the most part, Mark has his southerly limits, his tree clearing limits is at the southerly limits of phase one. Phase two is basically parallels this, is in this area here. Again, the sanitary sewer line that's gonna be constructed in between phases 1 and 2, there's a significant cut in there, about a 20-foot cut of 500, so it goes from 0 up to a height of 20 feet for about 500 feet. So there's a lot of material in there, there's about 50,000 yards of material. There's also some stormwater improvements that need to be done as part of that work. I've met with the Evans out there, with Earl as well. We've come to an agreement, and Mark has proceeded with completing the construction of the stormwater management area A, which is this here area here. So if you go by there today or tomorrow before the snow flies, you'll see he's completed the slope, the easterly slope. Thank you, Mark. And again, so staff does support approval of this, and the reason being, this is an active site where Mark is actually, mining the materials, processing the materials, so he has area. That cut material that he's gonna take here is gonna be brought back to the site, processed, and he's gonna get rid of it. And that way, again, he can get that cleared, grubbed, and weather permitting, he'll be able to get into that construction this time of year. So that's basically the what's happening out there. So that's what the request is. It's kind of a early action is what they're basically asking. I remembered, Earl.
Yes.
Is the early action step inside joke. And again, staff does agree with
I
it.
didn't know you joke.
I do. Wow. Only one of them. Oh, there is that other,
Wow, not going up.
that's all right. I can take it. One that Earl did put together. Really show it, yeah. So again, this is an overall plan that I've, again, as I indicated, the sewer will run gravity from the north to south, will connect into Sanborn Road. I don't anticipate any of that work happen, it will not happen, work in Sanborn will not happen this winter. Again, the significant cut is in this area here. So there's a significant cut here. This is some stormwater management areas that need to be constructed. So and this is the alignment of the sanitary sewer through the property back onto Page, crossing Page, again to the Rhino site. The green is phase 1, the yellow is phase 2. So that's what's happening.
So the cut, how close is that to, 28?
About 100 feet off of, outside the right of way, my recollection.
Did you add it all, Earl?
Yes, just Earl Blatchford from Hayner Swanson here, representing the Evanses. Charlie is away, but Mark is here tonight. Yeah, we're basically, just to bring the board up to speed as far as the meeting conditions, we have our wetland dredge and fill permit in hand. We have our alteration of terrain permit in hand. We're pretty much on we've addressed all staff comments, and we're on the cusp of getting our stormwater permit, and I believe Rhino already has their stormwater permit and their alteration of terrain permit. And the sewer permits have been submitted, they've been reviewed by Public Works. They've been sent to Manchester, who's reviewed them and forwarded them to DES, and DES has had them for about a month now, I believe. So we're on the cusp of getting the sewer permits. So really, what Mark's got in front of him before he even starts putting any pipe or structures in the ground is a couple of months' worth of work? Yeah. So really, our anticipation is we'll have our stormwater permit in hand, we'll have our town and DES sewer permits in hand before any pipe or structures are constructed. So what Mark wants to proceed with is the tree clearing, putting in the perimeter erosion control measures, doing the mass earthwork, which a lot of it is in the area that John was describing, is really the first portion of that second large stormwater basin in phase 2 of the site prep plan, which was approved in 2018. And then putting in doing the grading for the gravel access maintenance road that is part of the approved plan. Putting in the stormwater, the 2 small stormwater basins and drainage structures that mitigate the impacts of this sewer work. And then after we get our permits in hand and after the construction proceeds to that point, then they can start putting in the pipe and structures. There's about 3,650 feet of 8-inch sewer pipe and 14 manholes between the roads. We're not talking about the work in Sanborn Road or the work in Page Road, but everything in between on the owner's properties, the small residential lot and then the larger lot 45. So we're really very close to getting all the permits in hand and bringing in, being at the point where the plan will be coming in, our combined plan, Rhino's plan and our utility plans for the planning board signature and finalizing that. But in the meantime, the way this winter's going, they're just chomping at the bit to be able to
get going with the construction. If there was 3 feet of snow on the ground, we may not be here, but the fact it's been so mild and so favorable to just be able to do this winter work, that's why we're here tonight. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board or anybody in the audience has.
Anything to add at all, John?
Nope.
All set.
You
Kelly?
see, there are some conditions, again, as far as posting the restoration bond, completing stormwater management, and confirmation that the pond has been constructed in accordance with the design intent, which has all been discussed with the applicant and his engineer. That's it.
Kelly?
I just, from a procedural standpoint, just a reminder that we're only talking about this specific request. The board has already gone through a hearing process and conditionally approved the warehouse and the off-site improvements specific to this project. So I just want to make sure that we understand exactly what we're discussing, that we stay on that task.
Remains a conditionally approved site plan. So.
Correct.
Thank you. We'll go to the board, and then we'll go to the public after that. So, you want to start, Ann?
I have no questions.
Oh, okay. Tony?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Jeff?
I also have no questions.
No, I'm all set.
All set, yeah.
Just one for John. How was the project funded?
Privately.
Privately, okay. All right. It's important that, municipal money's not paying for it, so
No.
want the public to know that. That's all I.
Jake?
Cut and dry, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Ted?
Thank you for completing the items in a timely fashion.
Okay. Any abutters or any member of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns in regards to this sewer
I
plant?
do. Robin Dame, 2 Windmere Drive. I believe the last time we're here, there was a question of livestock or wildlife in the area, in particular Blanding turtles. And for those of you that don't know, the Blanding turtles are an endangered species in New Hampshire. And if you don't know why the turtles are important to us, they're important to our ecosystem. So I'm opposed to this. You probably won't see them now. They don't hibernate like other animals. They do have a system that they do hibernate. So I am opposed to it, as I was in July.
Okay, that, yeah, we are talking, the site plan has already been conditionally approved.
It's been
anyway.
approved, then why did I get a notice?
It's the formality and legal requirements that we have to abide by. There is a change going on, and that's with the construction of the details of the sewer line.
So what happened to the turtles?
So,
The turtles have
that's
been,
addressed.
so within their permit, ma'am, the DES has identified that there's Blanding turtles, there is the wood turtles, there's the New England cottontail, and within the plan set, there are procedures that they need to abide by during the construction, should they encounter those species.
Yeah, but you're not gonna see them now.
So, and that's part of the approval process. So again, if you're not gonna see them now, then this is a clear time of year to be doing that type of work.
And what's gonna happen when they come out of their hibernating period, they're gonna move into 28, and the turtles are gonna get killed by the traffic.
Anyone else? Ray? Name and address, please.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. I just do have a question about this sewer line. As I understand, it's going to be gravity feed. And I'm wondering why, if it's going to be gravity feed, it would not go right across from Page Road, because that seems where it's initiating from, in a northerly part of the property. Why it would not interconnect with the gravity feed sewer line going directly to Manchester wastewater treatment plant, rather than running it in a southerly direction which is untreated sewage that's going to connect into the town sewer system that then has to be pumped back up north to gravity feed headed to the Manchester wastewater treatment plant. Could anybody answer that?
I think we need an engineering perspective.
Because the gravity sewer,
Right.
the gravity sewer is further east of the intersection of Mammoth Road and Grenier Field Road.
Say that again, please?
The gravity sewer.
Gravity
is
sewer.
further east of the intersection of Mammoth Road and Grenier Field Road, almost in the middle of Merrill's Field. With me?
Where the pipe runs.
Gravity.
Gravity.
Got it.
Okay. Okay.
Shut the background. Turn on the sewer.
I think my kind of point is this, that this area is going to continue to be built out. Go ahead.
Yeah, but again, no, Ray, they are lower than the gravity to the west.
What is the elevation of Page Road?
I don't know what they are off the
Well,
top of my head.
well, you're saying it's lower.
Trust me, Ray, it was looked at.
No, wait a minute, maybe you can answer.
Engineers work on this, Ray, so.
Pardon?
We have to listen to the engineers.
Yeah, if I can, the reason we didn't go west on Page Road to tie into the sewer in Grenierfield Road is because of the low spot at about the midway point between Mammoth Road and Rockingham Road. We would have had to put a pump station in there. And so we're gravity flowing down, tying into the gravity sewer, which goes to the town's pump station and then pumps up. Goes to the same place, but it was more cost effective to build the gravity sewer and tie into the existing gravity system than to build a new, to run further along Page Road and impact Page Road further and build a new pump station. It wasn't cost effective.
Yeah, I get what he's saying, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that, but my concern is this whole area, okay, is going to be built up, okay? It's a commercial area to the east of Rockingham Road, a perfect area to be built out commercially, okay? However, going back the other way towards Mammoth Road, and those properties there, in my mind, that area should be somewhat protected, okay? Left alone, okay? Now, looking at the big picture for the town of Londonderry, with water and sewer, we got a lot of work to do, okay? And we should be looking
You
at...
get a little far afield of the exact plan we're discussing, Ray.
Okay.
That's part of your conversation. At some point in the future, we're discussing the sewer system of the town of Londonderry. And John can very easily address your concerns because they have the sewer plan.
I appreciate that.
That's probably worth a evening's discussion right there. So.
Oh, okay, just one other point, and that is this. That is a fairly high elevation in the town of Londonderry, okay? And my concern, is you pretty well know, is about water, okay? That is a watershed for Londonderry and Coesbrook and all of that, okay?
I think we have a good idea, Ray.
Okay.
You're speaking to the choir here.
Okay, and with all due respect, I'm going to say, and maybe somebody can think otherwise, what we have here is a mining operation going up there that is said that is preparing the property to be developed, and they have a right to do that. I can appreciate that. But there's a lot of blasting and mining operation up there on a watershed, a very important watershed in the town of Londonderry, and apparently we're sort of not even considering that. So, getting back to...
Mr. Chair, please, Mr. Chair, please.
Yeah,
This
Ray,
is-
we're getting far afield.
Okay, let's get back to
Not the
the
place.
sewer line.
So I think you made your point, Ray. So
Okay, Is my time up?
So you can relax.
No, I'm relaxed.
You can have a seat.
Oh, you want me to sit down?
Can you enlighten us any more on this particular plan? Not everything
The
else
sewer
in the
plan,
world.
the sewer plan, okay.
Not the sewer plan.
not-
We're not talking about the sewer
We're
plan.
talking
Ray.
about the phasing of this already approved plan, Ray. I
Yeah.
appreciate everything you're saying, all of it.
Yeah.
But it's out in left field right now for what's relevant to the
For
plan
another
itself.
time, Ray.
Okay.
This is not the time.
Okay.
We discuss specific plans, so if you want to orate someplace, you can go outside and do all you
No,
want.
no, that's fine, that's fine. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board, and this is just on this issue.
So just for the record, we're being asked to approve something that's out of phase, out of sequence from how things are normally done. That's
Early
it.
action.
Everything else has been approved.
This is an already approved site plan.
All we're saying is, usually A is done, and B is done next, and C is done third. This applicant wants to move C in front of A, and
That's it.
That's what we're being asked to
We
do.
would not be here.
That's all. That's all we're trying to do.
Yes, it's to meet the conditions of the existing conditionally approved plan.
Right. That's it. Everything else is already approved.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the applicant's request to proceed with site work relating to a proposed gravity sewer main construction with the Page Road improvements, off-site improvements, 14 Page Road, map 17, lot 45, and 11 Sanborn Road, map 15, lot 164, Evans Family Limited Partnership. A nominee trust, owner applicant is outlined in staff's recommendation memorandum dated January 3rd, 2024.
Second.
By Al.
Second.
By Jake. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time and
you
consideration.
Continue with your conditionally approved site plan.
Thank you. With any luck, we'll be back in a month or so to get the plan signed. So, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hope you didn't look at the weather for this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, start digging now, tonight.
4 to 8.
You think so? Good.
That's what my gut says.
4 to 8
That's what my gut says.
inches or
Okay.
Feet.
Next we have is our other business. We have our workshop session on rules and procedures. And what I want to do is Jake has made some recommendations. We'll discuss what Jake has recommended. Lynn has some recommendations about Jake's recommendations, so we'll discuss that. And then we'll see what we can put together.
And then, Mr. Chair, I think after some of our non-public discussion, I think we may need to remove a part of the, what's being proposed as well.
Say that's what this is.
Do the
about.
what?
Discuss everything.
I think that's gonna, we'll discuss everything first and then
Yeah, we might have to
then we can
remove
take
some
care of
stuff.
that.
Remove some stuff, okay.
Okay, Jake. you got
All
the
right.
floor.
So, hopefully by now, I'm sure the board has read all of my red lines, if you will, of recommendations to changes. Includes a little bit of an adjusted meeting schedule, administrative, or concluding a consent agenda, defining our work sessions or our workshops, and our conceptual discussions. Practice has said that we do not allow public comment when it is something that is conceptual or inside of a workshop, because it's not the time for it. The time for it is when we take that workshop session and create a public hearing on it, is when there's comment for it. We've ran into a few issues with it. I think a good way to deal with these issues is to adjust our rules and procedures a little bit to reflect how we are running our meetings. The last thing I added to it was a section for public comment. Actually, there's two other sections. The sections for public comment that I'm sure you guys have all gone through, as well as a section, I called it public relations. I actually got it out of, I think it was Merrimack's Planning Board Rules of Procedures. But having somebody who can be a contact for the board, I think what I was trying to get at it is there is consistent misinformation going around about what is happening in the town of Londonderry and what the planning board is doing. I think it's appropriate that we address that misinformation when it comes up, instead of letting that misinformation spiral into, one little thing into this giant piece of misinformation that is just completely false.
I have no idea what you're talking about myself.
Well, I don't know what rock you're living under, but you should get out of it.
Ann can't hear that well, Jake.
All right.
Yes, I can.
No,
but
she's saying
I
she
don't
doesn't know what
he-
misinformation I'm talking about, correct?
Right, I don't,
Okay.
about the planning board.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm not really here to argue, but there's plenty of it. And I'd like the board to make a decision of if we want to start to address it, or do we want to continue to
The way the board's always addressed is either through the chair or staff.
misinformation.
So, and I think that's what you said here, right?
That's
Anyway.
what I'm asking, is
Yeah.
to designate somebody to address this information instead of letting it go unanswered.
I think we have somebody who's responsible for that, Art.
Yeah.
You should be the
Well,
person.
Is it in our rules and procedure, Ann? That's what I'm
No.
getting at. I'm trying to clean up our rules.
But I think we're formalizing.
Right.
you
That's
know,
all I'm
what
trying to
we
do.
Currently do now.
Well, and I think what Jake's also trying to get at is also to combat social media misinformation,
Yep.
to actually have a designated person to actually put out there. I'm sorry, that comment is incorrect. This is what's actually happening
Well,
on
I
the
just,
town
I guess
level.
I haven't been seeing
That's
those
exactly what
comments,
I'm
that's
looking
why, I've been on,
Yeah, it all depends upon what social media we're on, I guess. It's,
So I think
It becomes unfortunate because we end up in this.
I think the point is well taken.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for any organization to have a point person, to have consistent messaging in the community from a single person. However, in this case, with everything that's going on now, you're talking about whoever is designated to do this work is going to have to be monitoring between 20 and 30
Yep.
social media sites
Yep.
on a weekly basis, and responding or not, up to the discretion of whoever's appointed to do the work. It's a lot of work, and it has to be someone that has the time to do it, and
Needs to be accurate.
and has to be accurate, and it has to be a person that can navigate the social media world. I am not that person. Just want to say that right off the bat. So, but to Kelly's point, it needs to be accurate. So anytime something like that happens, based on my experiences with public relations, is there's a give and take between the point person of a board, staff, town manager in this case, town planner, whatever it happens to be, to make sure that it's answered 100% correctly. Working with our regulations, having rewatched videos of what actually happened in a meeting, it's a lot of work. The school district is finding that out because they did designate a point person, and it's turning into a full-time job all in itself.
Oh, I'm sure it is, because that's how much.
For a person who already has a full-time
Yeah.
job in the school
Yeah.
district, so, I wanna get it out there that A, it's a lot of work, and B, it has to be a person that can navigate all the social media, so, and have a good relationship. Kelly, so right off the bat, that's none of us.
To me, I felt as though, and again.
Just
you know,
kidding. Happy New Year.
This was the point of this, is to have the board make a decision on what they wanna see, but I'm looking at it from just a strictly social media standpoint of things. And every single week, there's something that's just factually wrong that's getting posted
About the planning board?
about plans that aren't even that are still in, like, last week was conceptual plans are now fully approved plans for apartment buildings. Can we address that? It's wrong. What I wanna do is put the correct information out there, and we need to find a way to do it, because the only information that's getting out is the wrong information. And it is,
You willing to volunteer, Jake?
I think the problem is we have a process, we have a good process. It's a complicated process. It's difficult to communicate. And I think that's where the
absolutely.
Where the problem is going to be. Social media is social media. Anyone can go in and say, I can have an elephant in Londonderry. And then all of a sudden we have to kind of say, no, you can't.
Well, no, you can't.
You can
That's
only
what I'm
have
trying to
chickens
get.
and goats. But so I mean, I think the most important thing too is really kind of ensuring that our rules of procedure are able to provide the guidance needed for us to accurately guide the public on how to interact with this board. And, strengthening those ties there. I'm not, professionally, I've had a lot of, kind of experiences with engaging in social media and appointing as social media czar. It does fizzle out after a few weeks, and it really puts a lot of toll on, the person that would be responsible for that. What I've seen work is really kind of, again, strengthening these rules and procedures, ensuring that, simplifying, processes where we can, and, coming up with a good, narrative on, we do this process because, not, and, I think that, taking that approach is probably the better aspect here. Again, we're always going to have we're going to have everyone on social media basically and in the public. And you know what? I don't mind it because, they're engaged. And I think that's an important part of democracy. It is unfortunate when it does start to kind of go down, rabbit holes that, are difficult to kind of dig out from. And we really can't address it until we meet publicly. And by that time, we don't really have a forum to address it. Nor should we, do we address it. I mean, we are a quasi-judicial board.
Yeah.
We have a lot of different, we have to be very partial when we hear these plans, and sometimes impartial. Impartial. Okay, thanks.
No brief
We need to be impartial when we see these plans, for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the applicant. From the town council standpoint, they have a public comment, section, and residents can come and address them at that point there. So.
Council's not quite that judicial.
Right, so
They're very
it's,
political body,
I like the idea of, kind of public relations. I'm not, I'm not sure what that looks like at the moment.
I will say, I think it's also a matter of, I see a lot out there of people saying, oh, the town allowed this, oh, we allowed this, well, we're just letting them come in. But a lot of people don't understand is, if you own a piece of land and what you want to do with that land falls within the zoning regulations for whether it be a bank, a gas station, apartments, or something of that sense, for your zoned property, you are allowed to do that in the state of New Hampshire. And there's a lot of people who think that, just let them do what they want, or that, however it works. And, it's all due to the state laws and the zoning of the state. And there's a lot of people, I think, have a big misconception about that in town.
There's volumes of case law that protect individual property rights. So New Hampshire is probably one of the strongest states in the union that protects property rights. And that's why a developer can develop, and we have so many battles over uses and everything. But a person's property is highly regarded in this state, and they have a right to use it.
If someone wants to put in, you know, a 20th bank on 102, they are allowed to do that if it falls under their zoning.
Mr. Chair, could I just wanted to add something, just so it's very clear. Staff doesn't have the resources to have the level of involvement in this that would be needed if staff were to participate at any level. So I understand the proposal is to have a board member do it, but I just want to be very clear that staff would not be involved in the social media aspect of this.
You got
We
nothing
don't-
going on, come on.
We do not have the resources to be able to manage something like that in the planning department. So this would be solely a board decision and monitored.
I would think it would be more of a, as far as what's on social media, a town-wide thing, and then I don't know what the thoughts of the, you know, town council and, you know, our town manager are about it, you know, how to control it, how to address it, because it appears that the town would have to hire another individual just to deal with, all the,
I quite frankly don't really see the need to respond to every.
I don't either. I think we're sticking our nose into even a bigger problem.
One person,
Right.
staff person's opinion.
Yeah.
Again, this,
I
like
have to
pointed
agree
out,
with
it's the
Kelly.
board's decision.
I do
Any
too.
questions at all? CTV 20. Watch the whole meeting, because if you got, I'm on YouTube all the time, right? You're gonna find people, they don't care what a fact is. They're just there to, well,
Stir the pot.
Yeah.
stir the pot, and you're not gonna stop them, no matter what you do.
But
So there's no point in responding.
I'd also add too that in the planning department, we are currently updating the website to get it to where it was previously. And I'm looking into potentially social media that's specific to planning and economic development that would provide a separate platform from the town's, you know, town's Facebook page that would focus on, like I say, planning and economic development as a more centralized location to get that information.
Mhm.
Very preliminary
That
stages.
sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Very preliminary, but just a piece of information to consider when you're talking about this.
Could you also add maybe a question and answer? You could throw out the question and also the answer to maybe, you know, questions that the public might have generally.
To contact the planning office.
Yeah, but that might get it out to more people at once, and people, a lot of people don't understand our role in exactly what we do here, so.
If that's something the town's looking to do, I'm more than happy with that.
it's like having a media czar, you know? We're in a position to do that.
And that would be treated just like our current platforms are treated.
Yep.
In other words, anybody will be able to comment. It's, no
Jeremy?
restrictions.
I think it's a good thought, but I think at the end of the day, we're a volunteer board, and they could volunteer for this position as well.
They don't like to, they just like to make.
Yeah, I know, and it's a fact of life that, that people are gonna comment, and more so nowadays with social media, and I think it's our role. I mean, I think it's, what you said was great. I mean, there's land rights, and there's staff review, and there's guidelines for it, and we're just simply here to, kind of give our blessings to the process that they went through. Not whether or not we like it, dislike it, like the color, like whatever the use is or what have you. And of course, I know it's hard on the folks out there that are having something in their backyard because, you know, prior to that, it changes their normal, right? So, but I think it's an uphill battle to try to like address every comment. But I do think that our role here, well, first of all, they could get involved. Secondly, I think it's an important fact that when they do have comments, that we do our best to educate them on their concern. Because I do see a lot of folks get up to the monitor and the lectern and say a few things, and you know, whether it's blasting in a neighborhood or whatever it is, and that may not be our role, but I mean, we have the information there, and maybe we can add a little bit of education to that too. That there's, you know, there's safety procedures and protocols that goes on, and your well's not gonna be affected, or something to that effect, versus letting them just ask their question, and then we'll, they go and sit back down again, so, so I think it's a good thought. I just think it would be, and then what happens if somebody comments for the board, but it's not everybody's opinion of what happened and things, so.
Yeah, yes, I gotta agree, it is a good idea, but in execution, it's,
I think if the town is gonna be putting up some sort of planning and economic development type based platform that people can go to, I'm more than happy. That's a lot better than it is now.
I think I've actually had proposed this to Mike a couple of months ago, so I'm glad that you guys are following up on that.
On my plan to do it.
All right, so consensus
I would
on
say
the
we could
public.
probably get rid of that.
yeah, so consensus is to eliminate B14.
Yep. Did we wanna go through, Lynn, do you wanna go through some of your recommended adjustments to?
I don't know how we wanna do this, Jake.
Yeah,
I really don't know how we
it's the
wanna
first
do
time for
this.
everything.
You wanna start with
Well,
the easy
Could I
consent
just make a
agenda?
suggestion? So if everyone has read through the proposed amendments, or if you're reading through it now,
Whether you've read or trying to refresh your
just
mind.
maybe if you have immediate questions about specific items,
Well,
we can certainly go through this one by one, but I think if an efficient way to do it would be if you have particular items that you've read that
Okay.
you have a question about.
so I'll start, 4.7.9 should be removed along with section 12.
I think we need to talk about that.
4.7. What did you say? Could you repeat? To do what to it?
4.7.9 should be removed, as well as all of section 12.
Which is specific to public comment.
Correct.
Remove it completely?
Yes.
Yeah,
Remove public comment
I don't-
from the order of business and the actual,
According to
the
town
definition, essentially
legal
the
advice.
definition of how public comment would.
Right, but I remember the New Hampshire Municipal Association's Stephen Buckley coming into this room, and also in his videos, that he welcomes public comment
Not,
to the meetings.
We're still allowing the public hearing process.
I know, but way at the end, let's be realistic.
We're still allowing the public hearing process and the public to comment on the applications for consideration
Okay.
to the board,
Mhm.
but not a separate public comment period.
Agenda item.
Agenda
They do
item.
have something to
could you take a look
address. Could they put it as a point of interest during the meeting ahead of time?
It's been advised that we remain to what's on the agenda and scheduled to be heard as a hearing. In other words, what's been scheduled and noticed for the public to comment.
Right, but if it can get into a notice, you just want what's there for public hearings in there, okay? And there's no space for if somebody has some information they want to disseminate?
Somebody has information, the appropriate avenue for them to take is to go to the town council and utilize the public comment that the town council
and
offers.
were you not
Okay,
at
well,
our
it's,
last meeting?
well, it's part of the,
And.
okay, I just want to make sure.
You saw the letter from our attorney.
Yes, I did,
Okay, did you understand it?
yes.
Okay.
And I suggested a new 12.1. I'd like everybody to read it. And I think it makes sense. It addresses a lot of comments that I've heard or I've seen in social media over the last few months. And if we don't want to address it, I'm fine with that too, but that was my suggestion that we add. And I think that adds clarity to the whole discussion on public comment, when it's appropriate and why it's appropriate, and when it's not appropriate and why it's not appropriate.
I will agree with the addition from Lynn to remove what is currently in 12 to add this as 12.
I just thought it made sense to address it, in a positive statement.
That looks good, Lynn.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Jake?
You can ask me anything
Thank you, Jake. I agree with the consent agenda, but I would like to see approval minutes to be separate.
Well worded, Lynn.
Right at the beginning. And I think you can see the reason why, because if we go, does everybody approve the consent agenda, and you got
People that
two
need to
sets of
abstain from the-
two sets of minutes in there, some that have to be amended, so we move quickly on approval of minutes, so I'd like to keep that there, but go with the consent agenda.
Okay, so take approval minutes out and then have a consent agenda.
You got it.
And there is some additional language that I would suggest adding if we do proceed with a consent agenda. Just for defining what a consent agenda actually is, and then including the items that would be appropriate for the consent agenda, such as the regional impact determinations, extension requests, and the other piece of that would be, any board member can remove something from the consent agenda
To have a single
to have it
vote on
singled
that.
out on its own, should they choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would add language that reflects that.
Would that also include minor site plan adjustments that we agree can be handled by the staff?
I would be happy to include that, and then we would just, as staff, make sure that we provide something in writing to the board, so that you would have a very clear understanding of what you're consenting to, but, if the board thinks that's something appropriate to include in the consent agenda, we can.
Yeah, I
we can do
probably,
that.
for one, would ask it to be, separated out, prior to the meeting, or at the beginning of the meeting. Because it usually involves some discussion.
Up to the board.
Yeah, up to the board, only one member.
I'm fine with what we had just discussed about the consent agenda and pulling out the meeting minutes and adding Kelly's recommendations. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yep, that
Sounds
good
good.
with everyone? Yep, we'll do it.
Can I add an item for number 4 under meetings? To put a time restriction on the meetings?
Well, I was gonna ask that too. Is it like set in stone that they have to start at 7, or can we start earlier?
Started earlier, I think we used to start a long time ago at 7:30. And then the.
Well, that's not earlier.
That would be later.
That would be later.
The other way is earlier.
Yeah, but the board could set its own hours at once. And I think it's the availability of people getting here for a time, if you do want to set it earlier. But, I mean, 7 has been, had arrived at after some discussion, because it was like, 7:30, can't we get going a little earlier, so we'll get out earlier?
Well, I think we should also have a maximum time limit to the meeting as well.
My only issue with
Like a
that,
curfew.
Yes.
my only real issue with that is how, let's take a meeting that went till 1 o'clock in the morning the other night. How do you?
last week?
Yeah, how do you at, 9:30 at night say, hey, thanks for coming for 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.
Well, the zoning board of adjustment has, in their rules of procedure, an end time, I think it's 9:30 or 10, I can't remember, but, essentially, all you would do is, if you're nearing that, let's call it 9:30, you're nearing 9:30, and you've finished the agenda item that you've been discussing, and you're about to approach the next item that you haven't started yet, the board should take a consensus on whether or not you feel it's appropriate to proceed, if the board's willing to go beyond the end time stated in the rules,
Yeah, they
or
can.
if you want to continue the rest till the next
Yeah.
meeting.
I mean, I remember one meeting, this is quite a while ago now.
No, it was
that,
last week.
Yeah. Well, we've had later ones, this goes back probably over 20 years. But, I know when Jim Anagnos was chair, he'd ask, does the board feel like going? Because back then, we would put plans off to the next meeting, and then we met every Wednesday night. And we moved up starting at 7, but usually like 1 or 2 a.m. by the time we got through.
You're right.
I think that's a sticky wicket. I think we have to keep track of the fact that we're here to serve the applicants and the landowners and the general public. And I think if we notice it, I think we have some sort of an implied duty to fulfill the obligation of the notice, to say, yes, it did happen that night. And I agree with you, you know, to have volunteers out past 1:30 in the morning or whatever it was a couple weeks ago.
1:28.
I think is a lot.
Remember it well, Jake.
It happened one
Yeah,
time.
one time.
So if I were king, I would vote to say, let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Let's keep doing what we're doing now, let's keep an eye on it. If it becomes a problem, let's revisit it, and let's put a drop dead line in the sand for time.
So I also look at it as, you know, the longer that we have our meetings, it's the longer that applicants are paying their engineers, their attorneys, and any other associates that are with them. So we're now costing our applicants even more money when we hear all the time that London costs so much money to do business in town.
Yeah.
Now we're dragging these meetings on forever and ever, and they're now here for a potentially 5 to 7 hour meeting that they're getting paid on an hourly
Whether
rate.
they're
Now,
here until
the other end of that is, someone may call that we are under duress for going for such a long meeting time period, that they may want to call that, you know, maybe we weren't making decisions correctly.
And I think we also have a responsibility to ensure, to police ourselves a little bit, to ensure we don't interrupt each other, we don't get off track on what we're actually talking about, that we are really focused on what's planned, you know, what's in front of us. I've definitely, and I'm, guilty of this myself, seen situations where we have gone off track and we have added time to these meetings. So I think we just need to also be accountable to ourselves on what we're actually kind of looking at.
Yeah, it's like keeping on track too, so we aren't.
And I think some of that.
I mean, it's normal to end off in different directions anyway, and it's nice to have a good discussion, but not a public hearing, because it's hard to focus some people, so they address it specifically. And I mean, that does save time, because you aren't all over the place.
And to a certain degree too, we can control the meeting by the agenda and how we set the agenda. 2 weeks ago, I told my wife, I said, this could be a long one, right? You're looking at the agenda before you comment. If you have 8 or 9 different items on the agenda, you know it's gonna be a long night.
That's the longest one that we've had recent time.
But I think we all noticed that going into the meeting.
But then there's times that there's things on the agenda and, oh, wait, they all asked for a continuance, and we don't know that going into it a lot of times. Primarily the chair does and the planning staff, but the rest of us don't know that.
But if there's 10 items, you gotta expect 10 items,
Well,
right?
we don't usually have 10 items.
Oh, I know that. We usually don't go to 1 o'clock either, so
No.
I agree with
Yeah,
the other comments. I think we're here to serve, we volunteer.
Yeah,
If you don't like it, don't volunteer to be on the board any
At least
longer.
recent history, we've been fairly good. I mean, I'm looking, probably into the 90s, and then it was back in the 80s, and they continued until we, changed requirements of what they had to do for submission and everything. So I think at the time, the board realized it was doing more of the engineering for the developer than their engineer was. And so why should we aren't paid to?
If we met every week, I might have a different opinion. But if it's the second meeting, and now all of a sudden it's 10:30, and we're saying to an applicant, sorry, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Now we're pushing them another couple of weeks. I don't think that's right. I don't
Especially
think
if they
it's right.
sit here for 4 hours,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna go home, and then we gotta arrange the next month to do it.
Yeah.
So
I'd like us to take a look at it. That was, hopefully that was an aberration, that one time. And like Lynn said, let's keep an eye on when we're putting things in and as best we can.
I want to go back to my point though, Tony. Can we start earlier?
I'm
6
okay.
p.m.
I mean, if I have to take one less ski run, I'll come early.
What's that?
If I have to take one less ski run, I'll take one for the team.
The truth is, you can't make it past lunchtime on skis.
Yeah, I
so.
know.
I mean, maybe it's a matter of keeping an eye on our applicants and their engineers or other consultants, so they do not drag on forever on either a traffic study, an engineering item, so that we have to have a point where we say, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
get
but
what you're
if
talking
you,
about.
if you restrict them to deliver their whole presentation and then,
Do we let someone go on for 2 hours on a traffic?
I
I
tell you
don't
what,
know, I
learned
got a lot
lot
of
from
information from that.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot in
Yes,
that.
we all
I'd
learned
like to
plenty
have
enough,
it
but I
back.
feel like it
Repeat
was a little
again.
redundant.
I would like to ask Kelly if she feels as though 2 meetings is sufficient for the planning board. I do feel like we've had some packed agendas. Do you feel that the planning board needs another meeting in a month?
I don't think a third meeting
Okay.
would necessarily change it. The last meeting, as an example, was an oddity in that initially the agenda that I had
Yeah.
scheduled out for the 6th, it got
Everything got
pushed.
continued. Yeah.
So the idea was to not have an entire zoning amendment discussion on a loaded agenda. That was why they were initially separate. So that was, that wasn't the intention initially, and prior to that, I don't recall anything
Yeah.
past midnight, so.
No, God, no. You know,
Yeah,
it gets 10 or
I mean,
11 o'clock.
we-
To Mr. D's point, I think keeping an eye on it is more than fair.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of
And I,
putting a
sorry,
second
I-
time. Go ahead.
if you
Because
do,
even though we're here late, we got everything done, and then we didn't have to put it off to another meeting or, the next month, so it's,
So do you wanna
I think
start at
it's
six,
fine,
6
like-
or 6:30?
Yeah.
Ready?
Why change?
I could do 6.
6:30 or 7, what are we doing?
7,
I see 7.
7.
I would do 6:30. I'd change.
I would do 6:30.
I'd do 6:30.
How do you think, would that,
Just wait till
would
we're
the
still
public
going
have
till
any
10:30 at
problem
night.
getting here for the meeting, you think, getting out of work and showing up? I don't know,
Well,
I'm just bringing it up.
I think this discussion is great, and if we have a consensus of a different start time, I'm happy to look into it. But I will say we've published our 2024
7 o'clock it is.
deadlines and everything, so I would want to make sure that if we do propose a change like this, that we're able to properly notice everybody, the public, and the rest of the board members that aren't here, so. It wouldn't be, my point is that it wouldn't be an immediate change.
Yes.
I'd stay with 7.
Yeah.
So stay with 7?
Stay with 7.
Okay, next item.
Oh, I like it.
Actually, if, I'm sorry, if we stay with meetings, Jake, on your proposal, currently our meetings are, for, new plans the first Wednesday, then workshops on the second Wednesday. If I'm reading this correctly, we basically would just kind of,
I'm trying to condense it
You'll
into
have
one so
the
we
plans.
have the flexibility of, if we do have a shorter meeting with one agenda item, let's listen to some of that stuff that's gonna be on the second meeting, so the second meeting doesn't have 10 items, while the first meeting has 1 item.
so the intent of that proposal is exactly what you
Flexibility,
said, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Because you want to balance it, you don't want to have everything on the first meeting of the month. You get 10 plans to do, the next, following Wednesday, you got nothing. I mean, there are times because we were trying to plan on Sylvia coming in to talk about the housing assessment the state did this past, right about a 3-year period it took to
So
put
is
the whole thing together.
So is that okay doing that?
Sure, I mean, it certainly helps staff
Yeah,
plan
gives
the
us just more
agenda.
flexibility. At the end of the day, it just gives
Yeah.
us the
Everybody
ability to
okay
do
with that?
things differently. Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
I
Next
get,
item.
for example, I
put you in the middle chair.
Oh, no, you're not.
I want to
No,
provide.
you are not.
I do want to provide just a little context for changing so it helps staff plan the agendas more efficiently. And even if you continue something, it really doesn't change how we continue things now, because it's still gonna be the following month.
Yep.
We're very busy right now, we have a high volume of applications, I just got probably around 8 new design review applications in the last month, so there's no end in sight. So having the ability to space out these agendas like that is very helpful to my department.
Good.
And potentially would reduce or eliminate late night.
Super late nights.
Yeah,
Super late
I think the intent is that,
Okay,
so.
what's next?
Earlier, you can eliminate the length of time.
So the addition of our conceptual designs as well as our workshop sessions, just putting into writing what we're already doing and defining them a bit more. I think those are pretty cut and dry. Lynn, did you have any adjustments to those two? I don't think you did.
Which 2?
To conceptual designs and workshops? No, I don't think you had any adjustments to those.
And, everything on, where 7.7 is the public hearing, each person who speaks will be required to state his or her name and address for the record. But also, I think Jake has some good comments on 12.6 to add, so, you know, we're using profanity, I think we gotta keep, keep to the subject matter, be brief.
So are we
I've got, the town council has a good list on there.
Where are you?
I'm sorry. Mr.
I was
Chairman.
on, we were on conceptual stuff and workshops, but I think Art might have something on.
I just got to, we're gonna just add
He wants to-
the public hearing phase.
He wants to add this,
So the specifics on basically do's and don'ts of the member of the public
Yes.
that is addressing the
On
board.
So some of his
12.6
items within
is
the
the
public
new
comments to put that
12.6.
in.
Yeah.
To the public hearing. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so imagine 12.6 would be up with 7,
Like after 7.7 or.
7.7, then we would have 7.7.1, I think is what he's saying, that would have all that stuff.
So are we taking, so 12.2, 12.3, and 12.6 are going to under 7?
I
Yes.
think just.
Are we
12.6.
including the time limit? Is that, I don't know what.
We probably use the same time limit the town council does, 'cause I know some boards use a 3-minute limit. I think Dairy does
So
that.
do you want me to move, would you like me to put 5 minutes in there, or no?
Yeah,
Or 3
or
minutes?
no more than 5 or 3 to 5, discretion of the chair. Sometimes people have some meaningful information they're imparting.
Okay.
Sometimes they're either repeating or often never land.
Can I ask a question, maybe out of order? When I was looking through public hearings, the board members may ask questions during the presentation.
Yeah.
But where is it we go through the lineup here to ask our questions? After, I'm talking after the staff speaks and everything. Where is
That's
that?
not specifically,
That's not something that's written specifically, I don't think, yeah.
Yeah, I know, it's not specifically.
that's a discretionary chair
Right.
item,
I
so
mean, I try to
that's
keep it
something
brief,
that,
but
It just looked like it was
always
missing.
something interesting.
that's just, I mean, Art's been chair.
Okay.
That's how he runs,
However
that's how
long
he
it-
conducts the
That's how he
meeting.
conducts the meeting.
Right.
We don't need that specifically in the rules. to-
Okay. I thought we were
Yeah.
regulating everything with this,
Never done it.
so.
If the board wants to.
No,
add
no,
that,
no,
we
I
can
like the
add it.
flexibility, but I like the opportunity to ask the staff questions after they speak, if it's something that I have a question about.
I mean, everything
Yeah.
is ultimately at the chair's discretion,
Okay,
when the board wants to speak, when not, that's why you go through the chair.
right.
Hey, where we at?
I think we're,
I think we need to clarify the public comment section a little bit. Yep.
So can I just summarize what I heard?
Yes.
So, because I'm the one trying.
That's what I'm, exactly.
Um,
Can we clarify what's
So
here?
initially I heard we want to remove 4.7, the proposed 4.7.9, which is the
Public comment.
public comment from the order of business.
Yep.
Does that remain?
yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute, deleted public
To
comment?
remove public comment from order of business, that was an amendment that Jason proposed.
So, an amendment I had proposed was
Yeah,
to
I know,
create
I-
a section for public comment.
I
I
know,
just wanna make sure we're not confusing public comment to,
Public hearings.
Public hearings.
so right now,
Two
we
different
we
things.
do not have an allotted time for public comment at the planning board. I recommended, according to this, that we put in a section for public comment. Since I have recommended that, we have heard a pretty valid reasoning as to why we should not have a section for public comment, which was the letter from our attorney that you would have read at the last meeting. So I think we as a board need to make a decision whether we want to agree with the attorney and say we are not going to add a section for public comment, or is there a way we can add a section for public comment that satisfies what the attorney had said? I don't know how we would do that.
And the attorney didn't either.
Correct. I think that should all fall under the public hearing comment
Right, it should be.
for that particular
We are
plan.
quasi judicial, and you can only speak to the application before us, so, yeah, get rid of that section. Go along with our attorney, absolutely, that's what we pay him for.
That's following
And I
RSA 643:14.
Ted, I think
Which all
you,
land use boards are, under that, especially if there's a quasi judicial function, of which the planning board, probably 80% of our work is quasi judicial, and all the ZBA work is.
And to be clear, the public, the general public has ample opportunity for public comment on the specific cases
Right.
that have been noticed for that particular evening.
Correct.
We're not saying there's no public comment at the planning board.
Correct. That's
we're
what I'm
saying is
trying
there's
to
gonna be no
clarify.
additional,
yes.
no additional public comment
To talk about
because,
something that's not.
because people are gonna talk about the things that have not been noticed and not on the agenda. And so the attorney advised us not to have public comment outside of
Public hearing.
a public hearing comment. One
And
that's
I-
noticed.
Ted, I think that you did mention, I think it was Ted, you had mentioned that, if there is something that falls in public comment that is outside of whatever we're hearing, that's what public comment at the town council is reserved. for,
Correct.
Is to hear these public comment issues. Back to the quasi judicial thing, I don't think you can walk into a courtroom and talk to the judge about whatever you want. You're gonna talk about the case that's in front of you.
It's a juror standard.
Yeah, so, I think we need to make a decision as a board as to if we wanna leave that in there or take it out. I think there's sufficient, information from our attorney as to why we should not have a public comment section. But what would be the consensus of the board on it?
Take it out.
Take it out. I do agree that we need to move a lot of the items on how you should conduct yourself for public comment in public hearings into that public hearing section.
Which is what Art was getting at.
Correct.
12.6.1.
That was my intent there, so that it just explains the conduct of an individual testifying before the board.
And as Kelly was going on, she wanted to add sections 12.3, 4, 5, and 6 into that. Is that correct, Kelly? It's sense, correct?
12.2, 12.3, and 12.6.
And 2, yes.
The
as
board
well.
wants to add to section 7, which is public hearings.
Correct, thank you. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
And would we still be adding in, because I do like what Lynn has written, where do we fit that in?
I would.
At
So
the end.
I would put that under public hearings.
Public hearings, okay.
Lynn, any comments?
So
I don't care where it goes, I just think it's important.
I think it's
Or-
very
yeah.
relevant based
Or-
off of what we heard.
Or it can be a standalone.
I think it should almost be a standalone section 12.
Yeah.
And that's
I
what section
kind of-
12.
because
That makes more
it
sense.
Says we are addressing public comment
Yes.
Yep.
by ensuring that we are, having impartial hearings.
Good job.
I just, again, the concept of public comment, yeah, makes sense to me. But you get it into a different state, then you have developers coming in, pitching different types of things, and
Oh.
it really just, even if we were to allow it, I think it's incredibly difficult to control in this setting.
Yep, something could slip out that all of a sudden, a developer that is in their public hearing say, the board heard this.
I would
The board
like to,
formed an opinion.
at the,
They'll go right to court.
Lynn's proposed statement, potentially thinking, matters of general interest can be addressed with the town council or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
how do we add
Just
in
to
a
ensure
provision
that,
gives people, back to your point.
exactly,
Okay, what do I do?
right, exactly. Where do I go? What do I do?
That's a good idea. So you're saying you can't do that here, but if you do want to do it, here's where you can do it.
Correct. So I think we take Lynn's piece, maybe you can draft something up to send to Kelly.
I'll take an action on it to draft up an extra sentence to add to that paragraph.
I mean, for example, say if someone has you know, a question about how do I do this with my property, they should be coming to the town council. Town council chair can direct them to go work with town staff in this particular department. Instead of coming to the planning board for that, go here, they can help you, direct you, and assist you in what you need to get done.
Or if, usually if they email us or anything, it goes right to town staff to address.
Right.
And,
Okay, so we're good there?
Yes,
Next.
before we move on, I cannot stress enough, because I know somewhere it's gonna be written that we don't allow public comment. I cannot stress enough that we have public comment at our public hearings on what is being presented. I cannot stress that enough. We're not changing that. We're just not adopting what I had asked to put in. That was a specific section to public comment.
Though I do need to address with your item there that when it comes to workshops within the town planning board, there's no public comment.
And that is in both the workshop session and the,
Conceptual.
Already there.
And
Eight
conceptual,
point
yes,
five.
I just want to make that clear for everyone here and at home.
And I got one really pressing thing. I've noticed in this chairman, this chair, and even in our statutes now, it refers to
Chairperson.
as chairperson. So what should we use? Chairman?
Chairperson.
Chairperson? Okay. Yeah, there's a good search
like,
thing
I'd be
for
fine,
word.
yeah, chair or chairperson. I don't know what the difference is.
But, I mean, chairman has been used in the past, but.
Chairman is different, yes.
Merrimack
Chair
uses
or
chair.
chairperson.
Yeah, chair.
Let's just use chair. Nice, quick and easy.
It's short, easy.
Yeah, I'll go with chair.
Chair's good.
Yep. So
So
consensus
anywhere it
there?
says chairman on that, we'll change it to the chair.
Along with vice chairman.
Yes, so anywhere there's chairman.
Chair and vice chair.
One less syllable.
Yes.
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
That would English.
We do it anyway.
Okay, anything else, board?
Yeah, I got one comment I'd like to make.
Okay, Al,
I would like to thank Jake for all the hard work he has done
Oh, gee, thanks, Al.
doing these. Other than that, without his work, we wouldn't have these to look at. Thank you, Jake.
thank you to Jake. So,
Did
So
we hit
what
all
do
the
we want to do
points?
about my comments?
and I think Linda needs to be,
Yes, you
And to
told me
Lynn,
that.
and to
also-
Lynn,
We'll
and to
ignore
Lynn.
them.
Excuse me, do we still have public comment?
No.
oh,
I mean, did we,
And,
but for future meetings?
so for clarification.
I know.
So I'm gonna say it one more time.
Wait a second now.
For clarification, we do not allow public comment now. As today stands, we do not.
I was gonna say, can I ask the big guy if he wants to say something
No.
about it since he's here in the audience?
No, we don't even
No?
allow public comment
Okay.
right now during our workshops.
I've been
Rules of
overruled.
procedure now.
I know.
Do not allow public comment.
You don't have to
I
spell it
have
out.
tried
So
to
you-
add this, I am saying it because you just asked again.
Well, I was being
Yes.
facetious, kind of jokingly, just
Well,
because
it's
the
not
gentleman's
joking.
here, and it'd be
Somebody
the
somewhere
last
is now
time.
gonna say we don't allow public comment, and that is
the only
false.
reason we don't.
I know.
Rarely have allowed it is during workshop sessions because the public is not noticed. So we could be talking about something that belongs
know.
to someone else.
I know the reasons why.
Yes, yeah. And the only way to really, and our function is public has to be noticed. That is critically important. So if we don't notice the public, then they can't talk, so. And in the state of New Hampshire, RSA 91A says that all meetings of any body, governmental body, is open to the public. They can, videotape it, they can record it, they can take notes, but they cannot participate only at a public hearing. And that is New Hampshire statute, RSA 91A. A lot of people think they can say anything they want, anytime and so forth. That's not true in the state of New Hampshire.
On Lynn's comments, I think he's got a lot of valid stuff in there. So if maybe you wanna brush through them, Lynn, and see if there's anything.
Sure.
5.11. 5.11.
No, I'm gonna just run down the list. Okay, so my comments were made against file the rules of procedure _JB. So, and I
So
think
the edited rules of.
the edited rules of procedure, and I think they're pretty straightforward. So 4.1, Jake talked about having meetings on the first and second Wednesday of each month. Well, we get into that level of specificity, then we start adding in other problems. What happens if the first meeting, the first
December
Wednesday is a
25th.
holiday?
Yeah.
So I say we just go back to 2 meetings a month. If we want to say the first and second Wednesdays of each month, then we should put in what we do on holidays. And I also think we should put in something there that all of our meetings are televised as well on cable TV channel 22, so that it's there for anybody who wants to read these.
In our minutes, I'd like to do what the town council does, is to put the link
To the YouTube video.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
So then I'd like to put in a new 4.2, which is with appropriate notice, regularly scheduled meetings may be canceled at the planning board chair's discretion. Because we do sometimes have no business. Why have a meeting if we have no business?
Or bad weather.
Or bad weather, but it's at the discretion of the chair. 4.7, we talk about special meetings or regular meetings. I think we need to have something for special meetings. Special meetings, I know we've had meetings outside at sites and things like that. They can happen at odd times. They have their own agenda. They're not going to have the standard agenda that we follow. And I think we just say in there that we can have them and they will have a specific agenda tailored for the meeting. 4.7.3 and 4.7.4, it was just a question, shouldn't we have continued hearings go first if we're going to combine the two because they've been in the pipeline longer?
I agree.
Yep. Comment? 4.7.9, delete that.
We addressed that, yep.
Yep. Yep. 5.1.1, the third bullet down. The list and supporting documents for consent agenda items shall be included in the board's meeting packets in sufficient time to be read prior to the meeting. I'd like to put in a minimum time period of 24 hours, Kelly, so that we have time to look at those.
That's pretty
I'd
close
like
to
Not at
48.
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Ideally, I think we need more time. If 24 is.
I'm good with.
This is specific to the consent agenda items. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. I'm good with going to any time, but I don't like sufficient time. It doesn't define anything.
Define sufficient time.
Yeah.
24 hours.
24.
24. And then my next question was on 8.6, where we talk about a consensus will be formed on whether to bring the items presented during the work session to a public hearing. Do we want an option here? It says consensus, but do we want an option to take a voice vote? I know often we will just say,
Yeah,
we all
kinda-
good?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it might be worth a voice vote. And
I think if
once
it's something
again,
that's critical or there's a difference of opinion, it probably would call for a voice vote. And the only thing if.
I'd like a voice vote.
I'd be
An
fine.
option, it's an option, right?
I'd be fine with a voice vote.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah, one thing I had was roll call to adopt our rules of procedure. I don't think we need a roll call there, just a voice vote.
Yep.
What we've done in the past.
I would like a roll call just for us to all officially say whether we want to change them to what they are, and I don't know. We can take it or leave it, but I'd like a roll call vote on it.
I don't think it's critical. Most things we're pretty much in agreement on anyway.
Yep.
I think so.
And then this will take two readings too.
So-
Correct.
Yep.
Let's think about that for a second, though, because we have sometimes as many as 12 people here and an 8-1 vote, 7-1-1 vote. Who voted where? Who, you have people who abstain, but who actually voted because there were 2 alternates here that didn't vote that night. So I think.
Usually if it's close, then I'll do a poll, it'll be a roll call for the vote. We've had some close ones, but it's very infrequent.
Well, I wonder also, for Kelly's sake, for whoever's taking the minutes, would it make more sense for the roll call so that we actually know who actually was voting?
Currently, we don't, the minutes are not written. We state who voted in opposition. We don't state
The roll call,
everybody that
on
voted in
this, the
favor.
roll call vote
Thank
was
you, Kelly.
just a roll call to adopt, the meeting, the rules of procedures, not so much a roll call vote for
Everything.
everything, but just a roll call vote to adopt our rules and procedures. Got it, sorry.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on.
Moving on, number 9. So this is just me being me, the last, or I guess it's only one sentence, but conceptual discussions are designed to allow blah, 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 the planning board the opportunity to receive feedback on their renderings. Renderings, to me, doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, so I said preliminary plans or renderings. I think renderings are drawings, but we often get preliminary plans as well, so I was adding that language in. And then 9.6, just revise that to say feedback will be given to the applicant, period.
We usually call them conceptuals.
Yeah.
Conceptual plans,
Conceptual.
yep, that's fine.
Which is, in the statute, it just explains it as a exchange of ideas. There's no decisions are made.
Yeah, but Lynn's point at 9.6 is you gave him feedback to more than just their rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the whole.
It's the whole thing.
plan.
It's the entire concept of what they do, and so if you take out rendering, this feedback will be given to the applicant. Done.
Yeah, it's just, I think it clarifies it, and if we can remove words, I think we're better off.
Absolutely. So I don't have any problem with it.
Makes it easier to understand.
So receive feedback, get rid of on their renderings, so it will read as the opportunity to receive feedback prior to entering into formal review.
Yep.
Sure?
And then my last one was 12.2. Why do I have that here? Public comment will be, okay.
We kind
That
of,
was if
Right
we
to
kept
adjourn.
public.
That's gone.
That's grand, yeah.
That's out.
so do we need to have staff now make these adjustments?
And then we would have 2 readings on it.
Yep.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
And thank
Yeah,
you all
so-
for bearing with me.
Of course.
So just so I will make the amendments based on what I heard this evening. And then I'll also run it through legal to make sure that we're compliant. And then I will bring it back to you for the process outlined in the rules.
Yep. And we have to vote on it in 2 sessions.
Good.
Board all set?
Good.
Okay, next week, we have got 3 continued plans. There's the Plainview Drive warehouse, which is a perennial for the last year on continuances. We have Gene Gagnon's 130-unit townhouses at Perkins and Rockingham Road. And we have Gene Gagnon and Bill Grina, the medical office and the bank. Oh, exit 5 area. So those 3 continuances that we will be discussing.
I have one question before we adjourn, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
when you're ready. Are you ready?
anytime.
It was mentioned earlier, and it just rang a bell, do we have a process for, or what is the process for a meeting being canceled? For example, it snowed all day, it looked like it was gonna clear, but it didn't. What do we do? How do we know if there's a meeting or not?
I think we'll get, usually what I'll do, or staff will confer with me. And it usually comes from the, like the town manager or, public, public works. On road conditions, and usually I go by staff. Will they be able to get home after the meeting, if we have a meeting?
We try to
I wanna say it's usually
do it
made.
within 24
I was
to
gonna
or
say, it's
12 hours,
usually-
like if it's a
Yeah.
blizzard at 8 o'clock in
And
the
you have to
morning.
notice all the applicants and all the. and
So
all
we
the-
notice by way of an agenda posting, so we notice in town hall, on the website. The staff would notice each individual applicant.
Okay, got it, okay.
What do we also,
We obviously wouldn't send out notice to abutters, we would only be
Right,
able
right,
to
right.
do
Sure.
a posting on social media and the website and all that.
Thank you.
I
It's
don't
usually-
think we've ever really waited till the 11th hour to cancel a
Yeah, it's
meeting.
usually sufficient time, or
usually get it a
even
couple
the
of
day
days
before if it looks really, really bad.
We'll get that in an email, in our,
Yeah.
town email. Thank you.
Kelly, how does that work for, I know we have a lot of timing issues with applicants when they need to present and do everything. How does that affect anything when we cancel a meeting on our end? Does that negatively affect them at all or no?
Well, if it's not related to inclement weather, I mean, inclement weather is not anything any of us have control over, so that is what it is. It's gonna impact everybody's time. But if we're canceling a meeting for a different reason, which should really only be if we don't have a quorum, that does impact the applicant's timeframe, but that's why we try and make sure that we have attendance and we have a quorum before we proceed with
I
the
have to
meeting.
say, I can't even remember a time outside of there just being no agenda, nothing on the agenda. I can't remember
But This
canceling a
board
meeting.
is very good at providing a quorum at every
Yeah,
meeting. I mean, there's so many of
There's
them.
been sometimes, but this goes back a little bit, where it's been like touch and go. Especially a nice, warm summer day that happens to have the meeting at night and someone says, oh, I'm not gonna be able to make it, you know?
Motion to adjourn?
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Yeah, I just wanna check to make sure the board is all set.
I would ask us, and you, Jeff, you kind of pointed on it a little bit earlier, we really need to work as a board to get better on sticking to what is in front of us. Tonight is a perfect example. We were not talking about a site plan, but all of us started talking about a site plan. We need to stick to what is in front of us. Tonight was zoning, not a site plan, but we kept talking about site plan. So we, as a board, as a chair, we gotta cut this off a little bit more. I just wanna ensure that we are staying on what's being presented to us, that's all.
So it's up to you, people, to make sure making sure we're all second to one.
Make sure you're making sure, good.
Al, you and me have the sharp elbows, right?
Yeah.
Motion on the floor.
Second. Second made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Jeff. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.